will tell you that a collapse is coming that will change everything. They know once America and the Western world see what's going on, when people really understand, things are going to change. So it's a race. Do we wake up before they put us in a cage, a digital cage? That's really what's happening. So I don't know when, but they need us in a digital cage. And the best way to do it, and the last way to do it, is a total meltdown of the financial system of the West. Because that's when you change everything.
The central bank digital currency, in my mind, will be the key flashpoint when I think it all comes apart.
When you talk about central bank digital currencies, in order to drive people into the CBDCs, the digital wallets centrally controlled by the government or the central bank, they have to create a financial emergency, don't they?
CBDC, central bank digital currency. Yes, the Fed coin is here. Now, they rolled it out on Wednesday. That was the only day they could do it, because they've been denying that any of this stuff was happening, but they could only get it when no one was paying attention. So they rolled it out, and it's in its beta test now. This is a Federal Reserve digital currency.
Okay. Yeah.
So one starts as a digital. The other one has to be transformed digitally. So they've cut that transforming part out, and that's the part where it gets really sketchy. I think maybe we should start having the conversation, because this is coming. Maybe we should start having the conversation of, gosh, this looks like the mark of the beast. Let me tell you about the plan to retire the U.S. dollar. Right now, there is a race going on for digital currency. It's a three-horse race, and Bitcoin is not in it. It's the U.S., China, or the IMF, the World Bank. We are looking for what is going to be the world reserve currency. What is going to replace the U.S. dollar? Russia and others are pushing out digital currency, et cetera, but they're a tiny portion of the global currency power, and they're really not relevant, in my opinion. The U.S. Federal Reserve is behind China on the actual digital currency implementation. China already has the digital renminbi. It is renminbi is the people's money in Mandarin. However, even though they've already pushed this out and they're already using it, the U.S. is way ahead when it comes to potential adoption. 70% of international financial transactions right now are settled in U.S. dollars. This is what gives our dollar any kind of value now, whereas only 1.5% of the global transactions are settled in Chinese money. And so the plan is to issue a digital U.S. dollar and then automatically convert U.S. dollars from the old U.S. dollars to digital U.S. dollars, DUSDs. Okay, the banks would issue the DUSD at some ratio that the Fed would set. Now, here's why this is so important for you to be ahead of the curve on. The money in your bank account will suddenly become US or DUSDs overnight. But that doesn't mean that it's going to be dollar for dollar. In fact, the Fed is going to be deciding how much loss everybody takes. The Fed will also offer U.S. dollar cash holders, physical cash, but not in the banks, to cash in old USDs for new DUSDs for some time period, 6 months or a year.
When that happens, I think they will close the banks. You'll wake up on a Sunday afternoon or Sunday morning and hear the news that they've shut the banks, not going to open on Monday. And then by Monday evening or Tuesday, you'll get the announcement that we're having a new currency, the CBDC, and don't worry, it'll be 1-to-1 against the old currency. But there'll be some restrictions on your ability to convert your old money into the new money. I think it's quite likely that the CBDC will arrive, and it will also be the subject of the currency reset at the same time. At some point, the world is going to go into a crisis, or a country is going to go into a crisis. It might be the UK, it might be Italy, it might even be the United States, but something is going to happen. Things are very, very taut in the financial world at the moment. When that happens, I think they will close the banks. You'll wake up on a Sunday afternoon or Sunday morning and hear the news that they've shut the banks, not going to open on Monday. And then by Monday evening or Tuesday, you'll get the announcement that we're having a new currency, the CBDC, and don't worry, it'll be 1-to-1 against the old currency. But there'll be some restrictions on your ability to convert your old money into the new money. So if you're poor and you have a small bank account, it'll be converted 1-to-1 straight away. And you'll probably even find that you get a free gift from the government to kickstart the system. Maybe £3,000 or £5,000 will be given to every citizen gratuitously to kickstart the system in the new CBDC. But if you have 100,000 or 1 million in the bank, you're going to be told, yes, it's 1-to-1, but you're going to have to wait to convert it to the new currency. Now, wait means never. We all know that, but they won't tell you that. They'll say it's a temporary suspension because we're in the middle of a crisis. The people are rioting in the streets. And we need to calm the system. So here's some free money, everybody. Go and enjoy yourselves. And by the way, the rich can't convert their money for a while, but they'll be able to do so later. So if you happen to own Apple bonds, they'll be denominated in the old dollars. You won't be able to, it'll still be old dollars. You won't be able to convert those old dollars until you've got the cash. But when you get the cash, you'll need permission to do it. And you're not going to get that permission. It'll be exactly like we had in Britain back before 1975, when we had the exchange controls. You needed permission from the Bank of England. I mean, I remember when I traveled abroad the first time, I was allowed to take £50 with me abroad. Didn't go very far.
Disclosures in both the derivatives markets and securities markets and all other financial markets, if we can continue to raise awareness about this very staggering issue and let end users and consumers know what is happening and the disproportionate demand and need for energy as it relates to mining Bitcoin or other coins, those bits of information, that type of information, that disclosure will hopefully create incentives to move market participants and stakeholders away from that method of mining and towards either renewable energy sources and, most importantly, away from carbon-intensive energy sources.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you very much. Senator Hoeven, I believe.
Right. How do they hold on to the power? This is where they make your Bitcoin worth nothing. Okay. And this is why they're making all these moves about putting their currency, which is their new digital currency, on top. So the same way their money is on top at the moment, where you have the dollar and you have the British pound and stuff, they need to remain on top when they change over to the digital. Okay. But they also need to remain in power. Now, I can't remain in power when there's too many of you running around with too much money. Okay. And this is why I need to flatten everybody down, because less money you have, less power you have.
In a free country, human speech must needs be free, and the state must listen to the meanderings of folly and the screechings of its geese, as the brayings of its asses, as well as to the golden oracles of its wise and great men. Even the despotic old kings allowed their wise fools to say what they liked. The true alchemist will extract the lessons of wisdom from the babblings of folly. He will hear what a man has to say on any given subject, even if the speaker end only in proving himself prince of fools. Even a fool will sometimes hit the mark. There is some truth in all men who are not compelled to suppress their souls and speak other men's thoughts. The finger even of the idiot may point to the great highway. A people, as well as the sages, must learn to forget. If it neither learns the new nor forgets the old, it is fated, even if it has been royal for 30 generations. To unlearn is to learn, and also it is sometimes needful to learn again the forgotten. The antics of fools make the current follies more palpable, as fashions are shown to be absurd by caricatures, which so lead to their extirpation. The buffoon and the zany are useful in their places. The ingenious artificer and craftsman, like Solomon, searches the earth for his materials and transforms the misshapen matter into glorious workmanship. The world is conquered by the head even more than by the hands. Nor will any assembly talk forever. After a time, when it has listened long enough, It quietly puts the silly, the shallow, and the superficial to one side. It thinks and sets to work. The human thought, especially in popular assemblies, runs in the most singularly crooked channels, harder to trace and follow than the blind currents of the ocean. No notion is so absurd that it may not find a place there. The master workman must train these notions and vagaries with his two-handed hammer. They twist out of the way of the sword thrusts and are invulnerable all over, even in the heel, against logic. The martel or mace, the battle axe, the great double-edged two-handed sword must deal with follies. The rapier is no better against them than a wand, unless it be the rapier of ridicule. The sword is also the symbol of war and of the soldier. Wars, like thunderstorms, are often necessary to purify the stagnant atmosphere. War is not a demon without remorse or reward. It restores the brotherhood in letters of fire. When men are seated in their pleasant places, sunken in ease and indolence, with pretense and incapacity and littleness, usurping all the high places of state, war is the baptism of blood and fire, by which alone they can be renovated. It is the hurricane that brings the elemental equilibrium, the concord of power and wisdom. So long as these continue obstinately divorced, it will continue to chasten. In the mutual appeal of nations to God, there is the acknowledgement of his might. It lights the beacons of faith and freedom and heats the furnace through which the earnest and loyal pass to immortal glory. There is in war the doom of defeat, the quenchless sense of duty, the stirring sense of honor, the measureless solemn sacrifice of devotedness, and the incense of success.